Hey everybody, so I wanted to take a few minutes on this video to kind of walk through the signature assignments. Um, Remember, this is a paper that is due on July 27th, so the deadline is coming up on that. It is the single largest individual grade of the semester, so please do spend some time just to make sure that you get this just as right as you can. I've posted the guidelines for it to our Blackboard page. There's a folder under course content that is signature assignments items, I think is what I titled it. So keep an eye out for those things there. So looking at the let me zoom in a little bit so I can see it a little bit easier. So at the top here, I've got kind of just the housekeeping stuff, right? It needs to be about 1,000 words long, double spaced, 12 point Times New Roman, 1¼ inch margins. You'll need to have at least 3 outside sources, and I'll talk about what sort of sources are acceptable for this paper here in just a moment. But so you'll have to cite them, right? You can't cheat. Don't plagiarize. Don't copy. Don't present anything as your own that's not actually your own without giving due credit, right? It's the academic equivalent of stealing, and so please don't. Whatever sources you do use, you'll need to cite them in some manner. I'm fine if you want to do footnotes or a bibliography or works cited at the end, whatever you're more comfortable with. The only thing I ask you don't do is the inline citations where you've got the whole blessed author, title, document, source, and thing like that in the paper itself. That's just really confusing and and just throws off a whole lot of things. So you're welcome to use MLA format, APA format. If you've got some other specialized one for whatever field that you are in that you know just like the back of your hand, that's fine. I'm not super picky on how you cite things, just so long as they follow the some appropriate formats, including all the appropriate information that you need. To turn it in, again, it is due on the 27th, so you'll have to turn it in twice. Once through the Blackboard, there'll be a Blackboard assignment that's going to be in the folder itself, and also a Turnitin assignment. So you'll have to do the same document twice. And when I go to grade it, I'm going to be looking for a few of the things that I list out here. So first and foremost, is this a well-written paper, right? That's going to be the biggest elements. And keep in mind that you are writing something. This is academic writing, and your writing needs to reflect that. So please avoid colloquialisms, avoid things like contractions or stuff that like you might be more comfortable texting to friends and things like that. Avoid that, right? This needs to be an academic paper. So how well is it written, and is yours a convincing argument? I'll talk about some of the possible paper topics here in just a moment. And just like I've mentioned numerous times before, how well you do in this class has zero bearing whatsoever with whether or not you agree with my particular stance on a thing, or if I agree with your particular stance. So you could be arguing something that I 100% fundamentally just disagree with to the core of my being, and if you do it well, and if you present your argument, great, good on you. Because you know what? People disagree all the time. So can't. It would be horribly inappropriate for a teacher to penalize you just for simply disagreeing with them on something like that. But anyway, a few other things. Are you using the right number of sources? Are you citing these sources appropriately? Are you kind of getting into the meat of the person's argument, as opposed to, oh, I used 3 sources and the only citations I used were from the very first paragraph, right? Engage with your sources, if you would, please. Excuse me. The sources, again, you're going to need 3 of them. You are welcome to use the textbook, but it's not going to count as one of your 3 sources. Of course, if you do use a textbook, be sure to cite it, even if it's not counting towards your overall source count. Whatever topic you pick, again, make an argument. I don't want you to simply give me a straight history on the topic itself, right? Work on your critical thinking. Take a stand. The papers that tend to do well are the ones that just kind of come right out and say, hey, this is the thing that I'm going to argue right now, and then they spend the entire rest of their paper arguing that thing. Of course, if you're going to bring up the other side, feel free. By all means, engage with the other perspective, the side that might disagree with you, and the best papers, the best arguments do that. And then they take a step to show how the opposing point of view is wrong, right? So by all means, do that. That's a great skill to have, just simply for life, right? Being able to talk to people, listen to what they're saying, and saying, "Oh yeah, I get what you're saying, and here's why you're wrong." But again, as polite as you can be. Um, the paper is due again. I'm just saying it so many times because every semester somebody says, "Oh, I forgot the due date," right? So just kind of hammering it home. It's due. No, I want to make sure I'm giving you the right dates. Yeah, July 27th, July 27th, July 27th at 5 p.m. So it's got to be in Turnitin and Blackboard prior to 5 p.m. Otherwise, it is going to be considered late and start losing points after that. Quick little rubric for you: 25% of your paper is going to be based on grammar. So, can I actually read the thing that you're saying? And are you using appropriate syntax and grammar and just normal English structure that's appropriate to academic writing? 25% for your citations. This is kind of high for a paper, but the past several semesters I've had just a lot of issues with people either not using sources or using essentially encyclopedia.com or something like that, and that's just not appropriate for academic writing. And then the other 50% is going to be your argument itself, how you develop your thesis. Do you defend it? Do you bring in the sources as appropriate? Stuff like that. For every 100 words that you're short, there'll be a 10-point penalty on that. So just something to keep in mind. Let's see. So the second page is just a few general guidelines for academic writing. This first table here, I've got some types of sources that you should never, ever, ever use in an academic paper. Sometimes maybe use them on occasion. And then finally, the right-hand column are just fantastic sources. So fantastic sources are going to include academic journals, and I'll show you in a moment how to access those through Sanjak. Think tank publications, research groups, things like that. Primary or secondary sources, again, tend to be great places to go. Sometimes you can't always find something that you're looking for. It certainly happens, or especially if you're taking a particularly recent approach where there hasn't been enough time to develop academic journal articles or something like that. So in that instance, or rather in those instances, newspaper articles are going to be sort of okay. Again, keep in mind, don't just pull a little 2-paragraph blurb and call that an article, right? This needs to be something that is well argued, of relatively considerable length, so several pages long. So think of something like the New Yorker or Time Magazine, right? That length of source would be okay to use. Things that always show up every single semester, no matter how many times I say don't use these, don't use these, don't use these, don't use these, please don't use these, are things like Wikipedia, Shmoop, ThoughtCo, Khan Academy, stuff like that. Those are not academic, right? They might have great resources, they might have great information. Sometimes they do. But they are just simply not appropriate for academic writing, right? They are not at the level of rigor that we're looking for here. A few tips on the paper itself right in here. Please be sure to cite your sources. Again, every semester I run into students who try to plagiarize papers, whether it's knowingly or unknowingly. It's still plagiarism, and I still have to treat it as such. So please cite your sources, and on your sources, engage with your sources. Figure out what they're arguing, why they care about the thing that they're arguing about, and kind of really talk about them. It's really clear to readers when you have read the source that you're citing, and when you're able to draw out just the right quote or the right paraphrasing of the argument. So please pay attention to that. It's absolutely a fantastic skill that will need to be present as you go forward in life, no matter what path you take. Grammar and syntax, excuse me. If you are unclear in your language, right, and I know I certainly am sometimes as well, it can really be distracting to people who are trying to listen to what you have to say or read what you have to say, and if you're distracting the reader from what you're trying to say, they kind of stop caring, right? And I'm not saying I will give up on papers that are not well structured or things like that. Not at all saying that. I'm just saying that for the best grades, have somebody else read your paper, right? Have the Writing Center through Sanjag take a look at your paper, right? These are all options to you. Um, and on that, as you write your paper, the best possible thing you can do is get it into a fantastic spot and then set it down for at least a day. Just walk away. Don't look at it. Try not to think about it. Just give yourself space so that 24 hours, 48 hours later, whatever, when you go back to it, you can see it with a fresh set of eyes. I can't tell you how many times I've been reading my own writing, and as I'm reading the things on the page, I have no idea what I was trying to say. At the time, I'm sure I was thinking, my gosh, Dr. Russell, you are just about to change the field of politics, whatever. Um, and then you go back and you read it and you realize, oh man, it made a lot more sense in my head. We've all been there, so please give yourself that time. And as we wrap up this section, remember that this is a skill. Not everybody is going to be at the same skill level right now. But what you can do is recognize that it's going to take time to develop, and just like any skill, whether it's playing an instrument, learning a sport, playing roller derby, whatever it is, it's going to take time for you to get better at it. And so, given that, give yourself the time you need. Please don't start this thing the day it's due. I could almost pinpoint the papers that are like that, just because it shows, right? It's hurried, it's rushed, and this idea of oh, I work better with the deadline. Well, yeah, sure, I get that, but to say that that's the only way that you can work, that's just you kind of kidding yourself. Give yourself time. Give yourself space. If you tend to be distracted by your phone, whether it's Insta or texting or games or whatever, put your phone somewhere else. It's just going to draw you away from whatever the thing is that you're thinking, and it will take so much longer for you to finish this assignment. So again, I can't force anybody to do anything, but this is a lesson that I have learned over a very long time. Just give yourself the space you need and free from distractions to the extent that you can. That is just the best advice that I can give you. So, moving into the actual potential topics, I've got two that are proposed, and if you don't like either of them, you are welcome to pick your own topic. But if you do pick your own topic, please run that by me just so I can have a good idea of, or kind of make sure that you are on the right path. Last semester, I had I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 students write their own topics out of 7 courses that I had. And I think almost all of them were approved, and the only one that I was hesitant on, we were able to find another thing that was sort of related, right? So I'm not at all trying to shoot people down. If there's something that you really, really care about and you are really interested in, fantastic. Those make for great papers to read. Just kind of talk to me about it beforehand. So the first one is dealing with the federal bureaucracy, and I'm not going to kind of read through everything, but it's basically going to be looking at the new role of the federal bureaucracy and how much more central and powerful it's become, and what are how do I phrase it? Does this improve quality of laws, and does this improve our connection or our degree of control to the government? And the second option, the second paper option, is talking about the growth of the federal government as a whole. So looking at how the federal government is specifically following our shift to cooperative federalism has become much more solidified, much more powerful in the day-to-day runnings of America. And so the question here is, does this more modern understanding of federal government fit in with the system of limited government that is called for in the Constitution? So again, whichever one you pick, or even this third option where you pick your own, take a stand. Have a clear, strong thesis, and then spend the entire rest of your paper working to defend that thesis. So with that, please shoot me any questions that you've got. I'm happy to help out through the process as I'm able. And as I promised a moment ago, let's jump over to Sanjag's website, and we will look at how to pull up some articles through the databases that you have access to as a student. All right, so you'll want to jump into any web browser, go to sanjak.edu, so the school's homepage. Over on the top bar, there's a quick links option. You can scroll on down to libraries, and from here, so actually while we're here, I'm recording this in the evening, as I'm sure you can see from the timestamp. But during the daytime, during normal business hours, there is a box right here where you can actually text or sorry, have a chat with a librarian. So we've got folks who are kind of dedicated to answering any questions. So gosh, I can't find this thing, or I can't log into the databases, or anything like that. These folks can help you out. They are fantastic librarians, and they are very well versed with the options that are available to us students. Oh, sorry, wrong way. So when it comes to looking up stuff, you'll go to the article databases on the left-hand side. And under all databases, just conveniently, the two that I'm most familiar with is this Academic OneFile, and then even more so familiar with Academic Search Complete. This is one that I used all through grad school and my undergraduate days, and still rely on it today. So we'll just kind of go into here. And at this point, you can type in whatever it is that you're looking for. So we can do something like bureaucracy. And this will pull up any and all articles that are tied to that. And right, we got 14,000, so that's a pretty unusably high number. So we can limit this thing to full text, for example, and that'll drop it down to closer to 6,000. And you can set language requirements and whatever particular approach you're looking to take with bureaucracy. So bureaucracy, federal government. Bureaucracy, freedom, whatever it is, whatever approach you're going to take, this is the way to do it. So again, if you're having trouble finding stuff, those librarians are fantastic resources to kind of get you going. If you're ever having trouble with the paper as a whole, or any topics or ideas or like whatever it is, let me know. Please let me know. And one last time, that paper is due July 27th. So get on it. Good luck. Take care. Bye.